Everybody. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. At the very offset, I would like to invoke the presence of my Guru and Param Guru, Swami Shantanand and Swami Shivanand Saraswati. Om Hrim Shantananda Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Hrim Shivananda Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om. Today we come to the final day, that is the Navami, the ninth digit of the moon, ninth digit. And it is the Maha Navami. It is the day that we celebrate the culmination of the war with Mahishasuran, the 9 days of war with the several demons, and she finally annihilates the demon Mahisha on this day. And she's victorious. They celebrate the victory tomorrow. So this is the Maha Navami. It is also the Saraswati Puja day, which is celebrated in a very grand way all over south of India, where today alone they would put all the books and musical instruments and whatever instruments to rest. They'll put at the altar and they would offer worship to all instruments that surgeons, stethoscope, computer, pen, the pencil, the what have you, and adore the Divine Mother Saraswati in all these instruments that are an extension of her creative genius, a creative mind that has expressed itself through humanity, through the intelligence of scientists and workers and artisans, the tools through which are extensions of creation. They represent the Saraswati, the Saraswatyam, the skill. So those instruments are worship, musical instruments, extensions of the Divine Mother, and venerated and given to rest. So they are not, it's a public holiday in the whole of India. Everything comes to a standstill and they adore the Divine Mother. And then tomorrow on the 10th day morning, which is very auspicious, the Vijayadasami, the 10th victorious day, when the human entity is cleansed and purified by Durga the first 3 days, and then nourished and the virtues of divine qualities are cultivated by Lakshmi in the heart space, and that would command the presence of Saraswati. The beautiful virtues, the Kalyana Gunas in the Atma would draw the wisdom of self-realization into the soul, both physically and spiritually, materially, and in the religious sense. And like this, the human entity is made a complete Purnatvam. We find the concept of total success in everything, because the human entity has found the meaning in the fulfillment of life. So that fulfillment is celebrated, the Siddhartham of life is celebrated by Vijayadasami, the victorious 10th day. So because it is these 10 days that also they say that Lord Rama is supposed to have waged war with Ravana, and on the 10th day, his 10 heads were severed. So it's also the Dashahara, the 10 heads were destroyed. So it's called Dashahara became Dashera. So that is the victorious day for Rama as well as Devi. And in fact, they say that Lord Rama worshipped Devi. In the Lalita Trishadi, the 300 names of Devi, there is one name that says Lakshmana Agraja Pujitaye Namaha. Lakshmana's Agraja, that is Lakshmana's elder brother, worshipped the Divine Mother to annihilate the demon Ravana. And it is through the grace of the Divine Mother that even Lord Rama succeeded in this. So that is today is a beautiful Saraswati Puja, Ayudha Puja day, which beautifully celebrates and venerates the Divine Mother. And tomorrow, all these instruments are woken up once again and revived, because in the Indian concept, nothing is innate, nothing is insentient. The computer, the operation scalpel that is used for incisions, they're throbbing with lifetrons, neurons. The molecular structure is continually throbbing by a vibration. And there is life in everything. And that Divine Mother is pulsating through all objects that we see even. So that is venerated and adored, and an attempt to see divinity in everything is affirmed in these days. So that is a beautiful celebration of Saraswati Puja. And tomorrow, the Vidya Gurus. There are two kinds of gurus in the Hinduism. One are Siksha Gurus, who give you initiation into the spiritual path. Those gurus are self-realized masters who have seen God and become one with Him. And from that total omniscient realization, they lead other souls to the purpose of existence and to the goal of life, which is God realization. So those gurus, the spiritual masters, the sannyasis, sant, sadhus, swamijis, holy people, they are the Siksha Gurus who initiate you and who also know the workings of your mind and who also know the trajectory of births that you have come through and what you are today. They understand that from the ultimate point of view, and they lead you on with appropriate practices that they prescribe for your evolution. Those are Siksha Gurus. Then there are Vidya Gurus, those who teach you the knowledge of the world, like mathematics, science, language, the teachers in school. So, and also the dance and music, the fine arts, they sit in a strange category, which is spiritual on the one side in India, that is, and is secular on the one side. Because Indian music and Indian dance are intertwined with divine concepts and divine ideas. And music and dance are pathways to the divine, because the practice of pure music or pure dance in itself would unite the mind to a higher consciousness. So the gurus of dance and music, though we are not self-realized beings, but we also open the doors as we ourselves are learning. We open the doors into higher consciousness of the artistry. So they fall in this, like the veena is in a slant, they fall in this slant, neither here nor there. So the gurus of music and dance and the gurus of all subjects are venerated on the day of Vidyarambham. Tomorrow is the sacred Dashami, the 10th day. I told you all the instruments are put to sleep today, and tomorrow early morning they are woken up, and the teacher would once again give the musical instrument or the salangai, the bells, to the student, and then the whole act of learning, that is Vidyarambham, the act of, see, when we first enrolled for a dance class or a music class, if you recollect, if you have learned, if you are a student of the arts and you have enrolled in this subject, you would be so excited on that day because it's the first day, all your faculties and focus are all sharp and you're all eager. And that attentive spirit of wanting to learn and wanting to grasp everything beautifully, we relive that moment in our minds. We try to relive that enthusiastic approach of learning, like as if we are learning for the first time. We assume ourselves, even though we are a senior dancer or a student, we will assume once again the role of a beginner on that Vidyarambam day, however senior you are. Because you want the Divine Mother's grace to, because in her ultimate omniscience, all of us are babies only. I must just to entertain you to tell you that the Lalita Parameshwari, I was telling you, the great goddess, the Divine Mother with the sugarcane bow and the flower arrows, Pashamankusham. She is flanked on either side by Saraswati and Lakshmi, who are seen as girls who fan, like servants, who are fanning her. To show the superlative nature of her wisdom and her wealth, the goddess of wealth and the goddess of knowledge are seen as servitors of her, to show the superlative idea. So the story goes that in the celestial region, the great Apsaras, the finest of, the best of dancers, that is Menaka, Urvashi, Tilottama, and Rambha, and all these four of them, they dance before the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is supposed to revel, or she's supposed to enjoy the dance of the Lasya. Lasya Darshana Santushta. She's Santushta means she's brimming with bliss and contentment when she sees these celestials dance before her to entertain her. Like a king is entertained by dances, the monarch of the universe, the Divine Mother, is entertained by these celestial Apsaras. So when it seems the beautiful commentary by Adi Shankaracharya on the Lalita Trishati, when he says, Lasya Darshana Santushta, the Divine Mother Lalita Parameshwari, she enjoys, and then she leans across to Lakshmi and Saraswati. When we watch some program, we usually like to share the viewership with friends or people who you view the dance with, or the program, the theater with. So it seems she leans over to Lakshmi and Saraswati and says, see how cute these children are dancing. like babies, when babies move their hands and legs, they are very cute and they're like fumbling and they're doing something. Those celestial ladies who are superlative dancers, who are like expert of expert dancers, in the Divine Mother's eyes, they are like little girls. And she leans to Lakshmi and Saraswati, see how cute they are, she says. So to show that the Divine Mother is of that caliber. So coming back to Vijayadashami, it is the day once again that we venerate the Divine Mother to beseech her grace in the pursuit of knowledge, whatever field of knowledge. We go back to our gurus, who are Vidya gurus, the gurus of dance and music, and fall at their feet and assume that they are the amshams of Saraswati who have come to us. These teachers are rays. Amsham in Sanskrit means rays, the kala. Certain rays of the Divine Mother come materialize as these Vidya gurus, geography, history, maths, and everything. And through them, she lifts us up slowly, slowly like this. Her rays. So the Vidya gurus are like amshams, and so the disciples will fall at the feet of their gurus on this Vijayadashami day and assume that the gurus are forms of Saraswati and offer a small dakshina and receive their blessings. And the teacher will start once again teaching them the very first lesson that they learned, to re-inculcate that feeling of enthusiasm that we had, keenness that is coupled with great focus on the very first day, to relive those precious moments which are very vital in the learning. So then the beautiful shlokam that we learned yesterday, Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Divine Mother, may you, as we attempt to learn like this, may you siddhi, that means achieve. Acharya Siksha Siddhyartham. the Acharya, the teachers, teaching, Siksha, the lessons, may they find achievement or the fullness of that lesson made the student grasp in its totality. So that is a beautiful Vijayadashami day which celebrates everybody, and little babies who are going to kindergarten for the first time, they're learning to write. A beautiful plate is placed with paddy or rice, and the guru or a senior person will take the finger and write akshara. That is the A, B, C, D or A, I, E, Sanskrit or Tamil or English, and God's name, Hari Om, or like this, something Om like this, that parent will write and do the Aksharabhyasam Vidyarambam ceremony tomorrow. So this is a beautiful tradition of India for Navaratri, especially in the south. Different parts of India celebrate in different ways. In the north, it may not be, I'm not sure whether they do like this Aksharabhyasam or not, but in the south, this is a tradition. So today being the last day, I mean, I'm not able to do a session with you tomorrow, but I do have a session at Malaysian time 4 to 5 for an organization in Melbourne. They've asked me to do a session for them on sadhana, on practice, because it's Vidyarambam day. So to speak something about sadhana, I mean, it's easy to talk about practice. It's one small iota of practice is far superior than so much talk about practice, no? So yeah, it's on the chat. So if you're interested, there is a YouTube link if you want to join me in tomorrow's session. It's open to everybody. It's free also. So if you like to join me, it's Malaysian time 4, which in India, it will be 1:30 in the afternoon. Something about sadhana shakti, something about the power of practice and regularity, something like that. So today I thought, as we are approaching the final day, to once again talk about not Saraswati, but the Divine Mother in her form as Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari, the form which I spoke about in the Devi Pancharatnam, Lalita Pancharatnam, it is called Amba Sambhavi also. The Rajarajeshwari is also synonymous to Lalita Parameshwari, Lalita Tripura Sundari, and she, the goddess who holds the beautiful sugarcane bow and flower arrows, 5, and the pasham, on the left hand, the noose, the rope, and the right hand, the goad. So the big texts that we have, the large texts that we have on the worship of the Divine Mother are the Lalita Sahasranama, that is 1008. All the deities in Hinduism have these 108 epithets or 108 names. And the Lalita Sahasranamam, and then we have the Lalita Tirshadi, which is 300 names. Like that, we have Ashtotra Shatam, which is the 108 names. Like this, there are different groupings, 1008, 300, 108. Like this, we have groupings. And then in some smaller ones, we have, I think, 16 names and Shodasha Namani. Like that, we have different numbers. So the Lalita Sahasranamam is a very popular chant, which a lot of people know in India, and they chant quite extensively, especially even in Kerala. I know when they go to the temple of Mukambika, almost everybody knows the Lalita Sahasranamam and it's chanted. And then we in Malaysia have been lucky because of Swamiji, we have learned the Lalita Trishadi, which stands a little bit on another level because it was given to the great sage Agastya Maharshi by an amsham or a form of Mahavishnu known as Hayagriva. Hayagriva assumes the form of a sage and reveals this great hymn to the Divine Mother to the sage Agastya. Agastya, I told you, is a short, the dwarf-like sage, and his spouse or his consort, also the wife of a sage, Lopamudra. So this great mantra was the Lalita Sahasranamam. The 1008 names were first revealed by the sage Hayagriva, Amsham of Vishnu, to Agastya. And Agastya chanted these names with great piety and devotion. But still there was a kind of a want in his heart. He was wondering how come, even though I have been initiated in such a sacred 1008 names and I have been contemplating them with great focus, there is still a want in my heart. So out of great devotion, it is said that he goes and he falls at his feet, Hayagriva's feet, and he holds the feet of his guru for so many 100 years. It is tradition that in India, when you have a doubt in your heart, you do not go and ask your guru that doubt, because usually gurus, that is Siksha gurus, divine personages, they will already know what is going inside your heart. So there is nothing for you to tell them. But when the way you fall at their feet and you don't get up, usually you fall at the feet of the guru and then you get up. But when you don't get up, then the guru will understand that, oh, my disciple has a doubt. It's a kind of a way of telling they want to ask the guru something. Those days, asking the guru something. Nowadays, asking is very important. Those days, asking is not a respectful thing. The guru will automatically reveal. So the guru lifted Agastya, because Agastya himself is a great realized being, and placed him on equal sthanam, which where he was seated, put him beside him and said, you have a doubt in your heart. And so Agastya is about to tell him that, oh sire, though you have given to me these 1008 names of the great Lalita Parameshwari, still in my mind, there is a kind of a void, there is an emptiness that is there. And even as he said that, there appeared in mid-air the great goddess Lalita Parameshwari. She appeared in the mid-air, in the sky, with her consort Kameshwara. She, along with Shiva, Kameshwara, appeared in mid-air. Kameshwara, Kameshwari, and she spoke thus. She said, oh Agastya, because of your great devotion to your guru and because of your spouse Lopamudra's devotion to you, because of such great Pati Bhakti, Guru Bhakti, I herewith reveal the mystical syllables. There are mystical syllables, the 15 Latin syllables. I will reveal these mystical syllables through 300 of my epithets, 300 of my qualities, 300 of my names. And certain will be revealed to your spouse, Lopamudra, and certain syllables will be revealed to you. And then she, through her Chaitanyam, through her power of grace, she reveals this through Hayagriva, the 300 names, which is the 15 syllables divided into 20 each, and the 15 syllables and their mystery, the mystic formula of the universe, is revealed to the sage Hayagriva, through whom he reveals it to Agastya and Lopamudra. So this Lalita Trishadi is sacred because it is constructed of mantras. They are not just names or namas. Like Sahasra Nama is 1008 names, but Lalita Trishadi is mantra. There's a slight technical difference between just a name and a mantra which carries a vibratory quality that has a transformative quality in it. So the great Adi Shankaracharya, he wrote the Bhashyam or commentaries on many great works. He wrote commentaries on works that are complex in nature and that require a certain amount of understanding in order to appreciate and to go deep into. Remember, we talked about Ulladam Porul Edi Unarde, to go into the text and to realize its meaning, that Saraswati, she shines through that meaning. So what Adi Shankara did to help humanity. He wrote a Bhashyam, that is commentary on the the Lalita Trishadi, but he didn't write it for the Lalita Sahasranama. He wrote it for the Vishnu Sahasranama, but he didn't write it for the Shiva Sahasranama. Like that, on selected works, he had written commentaries, which show the certain quality, the mantric quality of certain works. So that is the birth of Lalita Trishati and Lalita Sahasranamam. And today I thought it'll be nice for us to, before the hymn is chanted, before we chant 1008 names or we chant the 300 names, or there is usually a meditative verse that describes the deity. It is called the Dhyana Shlokam. Dhyanam is to visualize or meditate. Remember, I was telling you that when we did the 5 verses, the Pratha Smaranam on Devi Pancharatnam, those are 5 meditative, guided meditations on the Divine Mother. The meditative quality of the verse. So these 2 verses, today I like to share the Dhyana Shlokam of the Lalita Sahasranamam, as well as the Dhyana Shlokam of the Lalita Trishati. And also, these are in Sanskrit, and equal to the Sanskrit is the great Abhirami Andadi of the great Abhirami Pattar in Tamil. And there is a semblance of the very first verse with these Dhyana Shlokams. Those are 100 verses on the Divine Mother Lalita, also in an aspect known as Abhirami. And there are some similarities between these two. Why I thought of sharing it is because tomorrow on the Dasami, we celebrate the Lalita Parameshwari in all her glory and splendor, for she represents the Vijayam. She represents the triumphant soul that has reached the realization. She represents all the saints that stand with her, all the great rishis and saints and sages who have attained the oneness with her. That Vijayadasami symbolizes that Vijayam, the great victory, to be victorious over life, to come above life, to realize the transience of the physical body and the immortality of our nature, the omnipresence and omnipotence and omniscience of our individual natures, to realize that and to live in that God consciousness. That is the true Vijayam, the true success of our human life that goes through many lifetimes, many births before we reach that supreme goal of perfection. So the Vijayadasami celebrates that the great victory. Even before we can reach those portals of victory, we celebrate that victory to affirm the immortality of our nature. So the beautiful Dhyana Shlokam of the Lalita Sahasranamam and the Lalita Trishati and the first verse of the Abhirami Andadi, these 3 verses, they have a commonality, and one striking commonality is the color of the Divine Mother, the color. I think that Chinu was asking me about the color, the symbolism of color. All 3 verses speak of the Divine Mother as red in color, red, crimson, the color of the rising sun, just the pre-dawn, and the color of blood. The color of blood is something very interesting, because though we all apparently seem different, Indian, Chinese, European, Eskimo, Malay, and then we form various kinds of stereotypes and ethnocentricities that we have, idiosyncrasies because of our color and creed and race. But if we just peel off the epidermis or the skin, all of us are red, all of us are blood, just like bubbles, bags of blood, red blood walking everywhere. We're all the same. If we remove the color of our skin and we all were red, there won't be an idea of race. And that is the Advaita concept of being able to see everyone as the Divine Mother's form, that we see you and see me and see everything as God herself. She has become this universe. So that color red and the reference to blood also is interesting. The color of blood, rather, is interesting on that one level. The color of the rising sun, the idea of the birth, the dawn, the idea of creation, the idea of the first rays of the sun that revealed everything that was in darkness. She represents the Udayam, the rising of consciousness. From all darkness, we are able to suddenly see everything in its correct light. And that early morning light is crimson, is the color of saffron, the color of kumkuma, the vermilion. And the color, as I said the other day, in the vibratory quality of color as the Vibgyor, as we see it in the ranges of the rainbow, we see that red is right on the top. Violet, indigo, blue, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Vibgyor. Yeah, red. Red stands on the highest, the infrared rays, and the ultraviolet ones we can't see, the lower ones. So that infrared is the red is the highest frequency that spills into the invisible light universe, which vibrates. Everything can be reduced to light vibrations. So she represents that in the physical term, red is the highest vibration. So the first verse of the beautiful Dhyana Shlokam of the Lalita Sahasranama says, Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Mauli Spurattaranayaka Shekharam. Sindhuraruna Vigraham. Sindhur is the color of the vermilion that we have, the red, dark red. And it is, if you know the song on Lord Ganesha, Shri Gananatha Sindhura Varna. Lord Ganesha is also supposed to vibrate on that same red. Sindhura Aruna. Aruna is the rising sun. Arunodayam. Sindhura Aruna Vigraham. Vigraham means she's totally pulsating in this color. She's an epitome. She is a personification of, she's made of this vibration, this color vibration. It's not a physical body, it's a light, it's a body made of light. So her body is not of flesh and bone, but it is a vigraham or a image that constitutes this color, Sindhura Aruna. Sindhura Aruna Vigraham. Light body, made of light. Deva means those made out of life, light. Diva, they're light, like light beings. Sindhura Aruna Vigraham Trinayanam. She has three eyes, the past, the present, the future, the sun, the moon, the fire, birth, death, life, all. The past, present, future, everything. These three eyes represent the triple qualities of life. Trinayana. Then it's interesting, for those of you who had attended my lecture on the Lalita Pancharatnam or the Devi Pancharatnam, you remember the whole thing was a meditation from her face, then her arms, and then to her legs. Now, this Sindhura Aruna Vigraham verse also is, in one verse, we're having the mind to cause down from her crown, then to her hands, and then to her feet. It is also structured in the same Keshadi Padam Varnana. Keshadi Pada Varnana is a Saguna Upasana. It is a kind of a meditation on the physical form of the Devi. So, first the form is, we contemplate her whole being, which is, she's like made of red light. Her body is Sindhuraruna, like the beautiful amberish, reddish, pre-dawn color. Sindhuraruna Vigraham. Our mind concentrates on this color, which means the mind's frequency is taking up to the infrared frequency. We are trying to push the consciousness to the higher vibratory level of meditating on red. Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam, with the three eyes, sun, moon, and fire. Then her crown, Manikya Mauli. Her Mauli, her head is adorned with countless number of diamonds. Manikya Mauli Spurat. They're all, Spurat is to glimmer, to twinkle, to shine, to emit light. Spurat. And what do they emit light? Tara Nayaka Shekara. Tara is the stars, the nakshatra. We have 27 of them in the Hindu concept of they correspond to the digits of the moon and the phases of the moon. And the moon is supposed to be the husband of all the stars. He is married. Chandradeva is married to the constellations. They're all his spouses. So 27, out of which his favorite wife is Rohini. He also has favoritism. So they describe her crown as glimmering with gemstones and say that the husband of all the stars adorn a crest. That is the crescent moon. So we are contemplating on her crown, her beautiful crown. Tara Nayaka Shekaram. Okay. So beautifully, I told you the symbolism of the moon is a digit of time. And the fact that the Divine Mother is wearing a digit of the moon, it tells us that she is beyond time and that time is a mere ornament for her. She's just merely a sliver of the moon, is just an ornament. She's not subject to time like we are subject to time. She's beyond, we can't even conceive of beyond time because we are so bound in the space and time realm that our minds cannot fracture out of that. Manikya Mauli Spurat Tara Nayaka Shekaram Smita Mukim. She has a very beautiful, gentle smile on her face. Remember, I was telling you when we did the Lalita Devi Pancharatnam, we had Pratasparami Lalita Vadanarabindam Bimbadaram. She had lovely lips like she sports a gentle smile, Smita Mukhi. This smile, as I told you, symbolizes the congenial nature, the approach of the Divine. She's only approachable. So that is why she's wearing the simple smile. So the meditation stars and the moon, which is the husband of the stars, is adorning her beautiful crown, and she's smiling in a state of bliss like that. She's smiling. The universe. Smita Mukim, Apina Vakshoruham. Her breasts are full. That means like a mother who has delivered a baby and the breasts are brimming with the milk of compassion, the milk of sustenance, the milk of wisdom. Apina means to be full-breasted, and the breasts, they also look like saroruha. They look like lotuses. Apina vakshoruham. Saroruham, vakshoruham. The breasts are like twin lotuses. So beautiful is her form. She's in a beautiful smile, the entire starry firmament as her crown and the moon sitting there, and she's smiling, and beautiful breasts brimming with the milk of compassion. In two of her hands. The deity is with two hands, the sugarcane bow and flowery arrows. But in the Lalita Sahasranamam, she is seen with not with the bow and arrow. She is seen with Panibhyam Alipurna Ratna Chasakam. She has in her hand a chalice, that is Chashakam, chask, like a goblet. And the goblet is brimming with a liquor. The Divine Mother is a drinker. She drinks. She drinks liquor. And she's in a state of must. Liquor means she's in the ambrosia of immortality. The ambrosia of the union of the soul with the divine. And it is crusted with bees, Alipurna. That means the bees are hovering around this chalice, bedded with rubies, which are red color again. She's holding in her hand a chalice, Chashakam, which is called in Sanskrit. And in the Chashakam is Alipurna Ratna Chashakam. It is brimming with so many bees, because bees go for nectar. Either honeyed, maybe a honey-based wine that she's having, honey-based wine in her hand, which represents the ambrosia of immortality, Amrita Panam. She has this ambrosia in her hand. Alipurna Ratna Sashakam. In the other hand, Raktotphalam, Rakta Utphala. Utphala is a lotus. She has, in this hand is rubies studded goblet, that is must be a gold goblet studded with rubies. And in this other hand, she has a red lotus, which is the color of blood, Raktotphalam. The imagery of blood comes quite a bit in this verse. She has a beautiful lotus of blood color. Raktotphalam. Vibhratim, she holds that in her hand. Panibhyam Malipurna Ratna Sashakam Raktotphalam Vibhratim. And as she's holding this, her face, Saumyam. She's Saumya. She is serene and like in a state of, blissful smile, Smita Mukim. And she's there, her eyes are opened in a state of bliss, is the Divine Mother, red in color, just oozing with the life force, the blood red. Ratna Sashakam Raktotphalam Vibhratim Saumyam. She's so serene, divine. And her feet, the foot that is hanging down, is resting upon a pot of Amritam also. That pot is also studded with gems, red stones. Raktotphalam Vibhratim Saumyam Ratna Ghadastha Rakta Charanam. Ratna Ghadastha, just now Ratna Chashakam. She has a Ratna Chashakam. She has a goblet with red stones, rubies. Now she has a pot with red stones, and her foot is pink like blood, the color of blood. So Raktotphalam Vibhratim Saumyam Ratna Ghadastha Ratna Charanam. Her charana, her feet are reddened feet. The beautiful red feet she has, which shows all of life. And those who bow at her feet receive from the pot of immortality the Amritam. Ratna Ghadastha Rakta Charanam. Dhyayet. We meditate on this Divine Mother in this beautiful form. Now, if you just were to visualize a beautiful crown, if you were to close your eyes and visualize how beautiful a crown of all the entire starry firmament, dazzling like diamonds. She is made of a body of red, incandescent. She's glowing, red like a red bulb, a red light. She's glowing. Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam, with three beautiful eyes that represent the three times, the sun, the moon, and fire. Three eyes. The verse is a meditative verse. It talks about how to visualize. So it gives you clear descriptions. Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Mauli Spurat Taranayaka Shekaram. She's beautiful moon on her head. Smita Mukhim, she's smiling. Apina Vakshoruham, her breasts are like lotuses that are brimming with milk. Apina Vakshoruham, Panibhyam, in a hand. Panibhyam Alipurna, with bees buzzing. Ratna Chashakam, holding the wine ambrosia. Raktotphalam Vibratim, the red lotus in her hand. Saumyam, she's so beautifully smiling in serenity. Ratna Gadasta Rakta Charanam, Ratna Gadam, like a pot of rubies, a pot of rubies. She's placed her beautiful red foot, reddened. Dhyayet, we dhyanam paramambikam, on the Divine Mother. So this one verse is the image that you hold in your mind's eye before starting the chant of the 1008 names. So similar to this is the verse which a lot of us here are familiar with, which is the Lalita Trishadi's Dhyanam. The Lalita Trishadi's Dhyanam talks about her sugarcane bow. But as I told you, the symbolism when I told you was the bow represents the spinal column and the five senses are the five arrows. Here, the adjective of the bow is, the symbolism is not given, but the adjective, that is the quality of the bow is spoken about. Ati madura chapahastam, ati madura, sweet, hyper sweet, very sweet. Like if you were to taste something that is so sweet, you go, oh, it's zinging. The sweetness is overwhelming. Something is too sweet. Sometimes we cannot eat something that's too sweet. We cannot eat just a little bit of that. The sugarcane bow that she holds in her hand is superlatively sweet. Ati madura, very, very sweet. So the nerve centers, for the symbolism, they receive the sensory perceptions that we want to enjoy. Joy means our sensory bliss of tasting, seeing, touching. Continuously, the human entity is going out into the world to sensually enjoy this world. That is called moda. So she is, by holding the bow and arrow, and the arrows which she holds, represent the bliss that the senses bring to our consciousness. Ati madura chapa, very sweet is the bow. Chapa hastam, aparimita. Parimita, the word mita is a limit. Aparimita is without a limit, limitless. The English word meter comes from mita. And parimita is perimeter. The English word perimeter comes from, the perimeter means the limit. So aparimita is limitless. Aparimita is limitless. Aparimitam amoda, not just moda, but amoda means a collective bliss. It's not just a singular bliss, it's a collective bliss. Amoda. Aparimita amoda. Amoda. That limitless bliss is the 5 arrows that she holds. The superlative quality of sensory enjoyments. We think that the sensory enjoyments outside is blissful and we hanker after that. But the Divine Mother is the source of limitless bliss that is united with the sweetness of the bow. That superlative state of bliss and sweetness, enjoyment. She holds the bow and arrow that represents this. The arrows that are connected with a sugarcane of sweet experiences, when it's released, it causes this superlative state of bliss, which she represents, which she is. She's the one who gives us the sensual and temporal joys, and then she slowly tells us, hey, hello, I am the one inside who is making this possible, and therefore, when you go to the source of joy, it is greater than to go to the periphery of it and just touch the edges. So she says, from the edges, she draws us to her, who is the source of all bliss. Therefore, she's holding this beautiful sugarcane bow of sweetness, par excellence, superlative sweetness, and arrows which are amoda, that is superlative in its bliss. Ati madura chapahastam aparimidam modabharna saubhagyam. And she represents Saubhagyam. Saubhagyam is the happiness on triple levels of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. The yogis have given up the physical world and the intellectual gymnastics of the mind and gone straight to the source of all joy, which is the soul. But the Divine Mother grants the happiness in the physical, the mental, and the spiritual states. That is called Saubhagyam, to have bliss in all levels of consciousness. The totality of bliss. Aparimita modabharna saubhagyam arunam. She's again like the rising sun, like the rising rays of the red crimson pre-dawn skyline. Pre-dawn skyline. Arunam Adishaya Karunam. Oh, what wondrous compassion. Compassion that is beyond conception. We cannot conceive of such a great ocean of compassion that she is. Arunam Adishaya Karunam Abhinava Kula Sundarim. She's a beauty. Abhinava is ever new. Nothing is stale. Like in the physical world, you eat one ice cream, you'll be happy. You eat 2 ice creams, you'll be okay. By the 3rd ice cream, you'll start to feel saturated. Then you cannot eat the 4th. 5th one is no way you can eat. That's a depreciating pleasure. But the ever new, Abhinava, the word Nava, the English word new comes from Nava. Nava Yauvana. New and young, always Nava Yauvana. She's always new and young. The word Nava means 9 and it also means new, ever new. Abhinava is to bring forth newness every time. Every time you see the cloud formation in the sky, it is new. It never repeats. The wave formation in the ocean never repeats. The leaves on the trees, not one is identical to the other. They are all unique. Everything, every bit of creation is so unique and ever new and ever fresh and ever. But when they say Abhinava Kula, Kula means a group. The groups of ever new. See, the celestials, the gods in the heavens, they are ever young. They are called Ajara. They are also Abhinava. They are ever young. They never age. They're called the gods, the devas, they're called Animisha. They don't blink. They are ever awake and they are ever youthful in they never age. Abhinava Kula, the Gandharvas are also like that. The Charanas, the Kinnaras, the Kimpurushas, the Siddhas, the many planes of angels. The angels, you never see them aging. They're always in that middle 30 years of age, in the prime of youth. They are shining like this, shining. In those hosts of beauties, and they're all beautiful, for they represent, their beauty is the beauty of the soul qualities of compassion. They shine as beautiful because of soul virtue, not because of physical form. Here in the physical world, we have beautiful people, but they may be a devil inside them. But there in that celestial world, they shine because of their soul quality. And the Divine Mother is the Sundari. She is in that Abhinava Kula, in that family of gods. She is the foremost. She's the beauty. She's the beauty queen. She's the beauty queen of the celestial realm, where everybody is beautiful. There's nobody ugly there. Everybody is superlatively beautiful, and she is superlative of that. Abhinava Kula Sundari. I bow to her who is superlative. So the mind is straining to break loose from the confines of limitation when we talk about superlative qualities, and the mind is training to visualize something that is superlative. How can you visualize something superlative when we are confined to the limited? So the attempt in the Dhyana Shloka is a great psychological method of expanding the mind out of its limits, to open up the mind to a vaster consciousness. Abhinava Kula Sundarim Bande Ati Madura Chapahastam. Very, very sweet is the bow. Aparimita Amodha. Aparimita Amodha. A parameterless, a limitless bliss is the 5 arrows that she causes the sensory perceptions. She's the source of the bliss behind the sensory perceptions. Modabana Saubhagyam, she's the bliss in all triple planes of consciousness. Arunam, of the color red, of the rising sun. Arunam Atishaya Karunam. What a wondrous compassion. Though she's so far, so beautiful, she's brimming with pity and sympathy for humanity, for those who beseech her. Arunam Adishaya Karunam Abhinava Kula Sundarim Vande. She, who is the beauty of the hosts and hosts of gods, who are all ever youthful and ever new, ever young, ever fresh. She looms as among them, she is a Sundari. Vande. Lot of us who are reciting the Trishadi, this is a lovely moment to take a step back and look at its meanings, which we are reciting always, like, just chanting it, of course, as a matter of fact or as a routine, but it has its own value there also. But it's nice to savor the poetry of the meaning. And similar to that is a beautiful, what do you call it, verse in Tamil by the great saint Abhirami Pattar. He, of course, his story is Vande. Oh, Vande, sorry, Soma, now only I'm seeing a message. Vande means to bow, Vanditam. I bow. I assume that people know that. I'm sorry. Abhinava Kula Sundarim Vande Vandanam or Vanditam, like this. Vande. We bow. So that is what it means. Abhinava Kula Sundarim Vande. We bow to you. The earlier one, when we did the Sindhur Aruna Vigraham, it was Dhyayet Dhyanam, like we meditate on the form. But this Adimathura Chapahasam is also a Dhyanam, Dhyana Shloka. That means we try to strain our minds in the Trikuti to visualize the form of the Divine Mother. In Tamil, the great Abhinami Pattar, I won't narrate the story because we're running short of time, but for those of you who know the story of how he was in a meditation and before the image of the Divine Mother in the temple sanctum and deep in meditation the day before the Amavasya, the dark fortnight, and being a great saint, he loses himself in the meditation and he's oblivious of time. And the Raja Sarfoji comes there and he's very offended because this guy is sitting in the way between him and the Divine Mother's altar. So they tell him, sir, he's a great saint. He said, what great saint? Great saints should know that I'm a king and I'm here and he's sitting there. So let me test him to see whether he's a real saint or not. So he said, hey, you, tell me, is tomorrow the full moon or is it a new moon? There is no moon. So that great Pattar, who is like a madman, who is madly in love with the Divine Mother, he gets annoyed because here is he having a continuous experience of the Divine Mother's face and form in his continuous meditation without a break in thought, and somebody is disturbing his yoga state of yoga. So he says, it's full moon, get away, he said, because for him, the Divine Mother's face is like the moon. So he said, oh, if it is not the full moon tomorrow, you just wait, we will burn you in the stakes. The next day, when the sage comes out of his meditation and the priests in the temple said, oh, sir, oh, great saint, oh, great sire, you know, the Raja came and you told that tomorrow is the full moon, but tomorrow there is no moon. So the saint laughed, oh, the Divine Mother wants to play with me her game. She spoke through my lips to say it's a full moon. I was so engrossed in her beauty of her face, which looked like the full moon, that I said it was a moon. And she wants, he was not upset or afraid of dying. That is insignificant to the great ones. How she plays. So they tied the Raja the next day, made a big, huge fire and tied the saint to a swing that was hanging from 100 ropes above the flame. And they were slowly lowering it through the night as there's no moon appearing in the sky. They were slowly lowering it so that he would burn in the stakes. And each time he sang extempo 100 verses, which is a literary wonder where the last word of the first verse becomes the first word in the second verse, like that. It comes andadi. The antam of the last verse becomes the adi of the next verse. So this kind of poetry is called andadi. And the very first verse, and in the 74th verse or 79th verse, I think, correct me when I'm wrong, Dr. Param will know, I think 79. He looks up and there, lo and behold, the Divine Mother appears in the sky. Just as the swing is going to touch the fire, it's almost burning there. They're cutting off the ropes, 100 ropes. Each song he sang, they cut one rope. And as it was being lowered, he suddenly there in all her glory, she appears. And Amma, can you leave the light on, please? And she appears in the sky and removes her earring and throws it into the sky. And lo and behold, it forms into the full moon. Miracle. The Raja is flabbergasted, for he sees this vision. as he sees this vision, he is awestruck. He runs and he falls at the feet of Abhirami Pattar. That is the glorious story of Abhirami Pattar. And in those verses, 108 verses, which bear great semblance to the Sahasranamam and Lalita Trishadi and Saundarya Lahari of Adi Shankara, the description of the Divine Mother, the first verse, Udikindra Shinkadir, like the rising red sun, Shinkadir, the reddened crimson. So even he talks in the very first verse almost like a dhyanam. It bears semblance to the Lalita Sahasranama Dhyanam and the Lalita Trishadi Dhyanam. Sindhuraruna Vigraham, like that. Udikindra Shingadir Uchittilakam. It adorns, that rising sun adorns her crest, her mauli. Remember we said Tarana, Manikya Mauli. The Mauli is adorned with the rising sun. Udikindra Shingadir Uchittilakam Unarvudayor Madikindra Manikyam. Again Manikyam. For those who have the consciousness of the Divine Mother, she is the priceless diamond, priceless Manikyam, priceless gem. Udikindra Shankara Chittilakam Punarvudayor Madikindra Manikyam Madhulam Podu Kamalai. She is like the pomegranate flower, crimson also in color, the same color as the pomegranate. Madhulam Podu Malar Kamalai Vidikindra Minkodi Menkadi Kungumattoyamena. She is like she's drenched in kunkuma, like a lightning of kunkuma, which is red color also. Again, you see the profusion of the meditation on red recurs in all the three scriptures. The consciousness is trying to visualize this color red to lift the consciousness up. The idea of the omnipresence as blood in all beings, that beyond race and creed and color of the external, we are going to the internal sameness, even with the animal kingdom, the red blood. Madhulam Podu Malar Kamalai Vidikindra Minkodi Menkadi Kunkumattoyamenna Vidikindra Abhirami Yandan Vidithunaye Vidikindra Meni Abhirami Yandan Vidithunaye. She who her mani, her whole form, her body, her is drenched in this red color. She is my support. I depend upon her. So this sort of meditation on the Divine Mother lifts our consciousness to helps to lift our consciousness to the omnipresence, her omniscience, her all-encompassing nature. This Dhyana Shlokams. And it is something that we can contemplate upon on this beautiful Dasami, Vijaya Dasami day, and meditate on the physical form, and from the physical form, how we fracture that into the impersonal qualities or the nirguna qualities of the physical form itself. Tells us so many things that are abstract. The moon tells us of timelessness. The gems tell us of the stars and the firmament, which is so wide. The color tells us of the presence, the presence everywhere. So like this, the physicality, the concrete symbolism is actually speaking of the total opposite, which is the abstraction that God is. While she's physical and while she's personal and while she's a mother and while we have affection and devotion and all that on the one hand, at the same time, she's impersonal and omnipresent and everywhere and everybody. She's talking to us through the baby, through the layman on the road, through the person we meet in the shop. It is all her divine play that she is. Let us behold her in all these things. that we see. That is the real meditation, is to strive to see the Divine Mother in all. It's so beautiful in the life of the great saint Meera, who was in love with Lord Krishna. You know, her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law and her husband, they all tortured her, you know, they tortured her. They tried to poison her. They sent a bit of nails. They sent a cobra. They sent all sorts of things to kill her and do things. And then finally they ostracized her and they sent her to get away and to murder herself. And of course, she goes to Vrindavan. And then there is great calamity in the Rajput kingdom. And the king runs to Vrindavan and falls at his wife's feet and begs forgiveness. At that moment, the great saint, you know, she tells him, "Oh Rana, you did not torture me. It is by Krishna who played this game through you. It is Krishna. He played through you. And through me, he was victorious over that game. It is him, all in all." So in the saint's eye, she did not see the agency of the person who was doing the torture to her. She only felt the indwelling spirit who did those actions to her, whether good or bad or great or small or horrible, evil or good. It was the divine Lord playing this game. So in her eyes, she said, "There is nothing for me to forgive you because he played this game through you and through me. So let us sing his name and lose ourselves in him." So that is the beautiful meditation, to strive to let us behold thee in all these names and forms, to behold thee in all these different forms of deities and gods and religions and people as the blood in all beings, that to open up the consciousness from the limitations of Hindu, Christian, Muslim, whatever you have, and to live the spirit of the universe, you know, that ultimately whatever prayer and whatever religion we are doing, it is to bring that consciousness to feel that fullness. And that is the Vijayadashami, the 10th victorious day, where the consciousness breaks loose from its confines and in its natural state. This physical body and its limitations are its unnatural state. We are right now in an unnatural state. We have to get back to the natural state where we are. And that is searing through the Maya that she has created. And so that is the beautiful, sorry, I've taken some extra time, and that's because today we don't have a session tomorrow, so I've taken the liberty to go extend overboard a little bit. And it's the final beautiful night. And that is a beautiful Navaratri meditation that we end with. I mean, all these festivals and celebrations and fasts, they strive to bring our consciousness to that blissful divine state. And so I pray that these meditative shlokas would help us and struggle as every bit of struggle that we do, it seems the Divine Mother is taking note of every time we struggle. She has a big ledger and a big account book, and she's notating every small effort we make towards her in this vast school of life, the long trajectory of births that we take to reach her feet. She is very meticulously observing every bit of effort that we take to reach her. And she is slowly, Nilayai Uyattiduval. As I said in the first day, stages and stages, she will lift us. And we pray to her so sincerely, and we hold her feet on this last night and implore her to grace us with her presence, the remembrance of her, the vision of her through everyone and everything that we see and do, and to bring the consciousness back to its natural state of oneness with everyone, with all beings in this universe. With that, I end this beautiful Navaratri Pravachana series of 9 days. I must thank all of you all for being such good audiences, meaning good audiences, you're not responding at all, but that is something that I would like to hear some of your voices at some point, because right now I always only see you all as an invisible screen. So Yeah, so thank you once again so much for this beautiful opportunity. I must thank the Bindu platform for hosting this. And as much as I'm a speaker, I'm also an audience who enjoys certain things that remain in my mind behind. So I thank you all, and I wish you all a very, very beautiful Vijayadashami tomorrow, and may that Vijayadashami continually inspire us to, in this long travel of life, to enjoy the session. Selvam, thank you, Selvam, and thank you. I can't read these things. Tushita, yeah, thank you, Tushita. So special like thank you so much. Yeah, the talks are. Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you, and these. The talks are still available on the YouTube. And tomorrow I do a small session for dancers on practice at Malaysian time, 4 p.m. And that is Melbourne, 7 p.m. So for those of you who are interested, the link is there. Shalini Jain, thank you, Shalini. Sandhya Pillai, thank you, Vimala. Thank you, Vimala. And yeah, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I know that you're all there, and yeah, if you scroll up the chat box, you'll see the link over there. It's a YouTube link. If you're interested, it's at 4 p.m. tomorrow evening. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you very much, Shobana. And some of my students are here, Mala, and thank you very much for making it. Those who are homebound, Cheryl, yeah. Thank you, everyone. It's been very nice for me also to speak like this, and it's so long since we celebrated Navaratri with this kind of a remembrance and pujas and all. It's been always a Temple of Fine Arts Navaratri, which is beautiful in its own way, but it's also nice to fulfill our souls sometimes. Thank you, Mutsami. Any talks next year, 2022? I don't know. Let's see as it comes. We'll just stay tuned to Bindu or to my Facebook page. Every so often. Last year, actually, I did the same talks, but I just went FB Live. So when I went FB Live, I just put it on, and whoever just watching, they kind of watched. But this year we've advertised, and it's a bit more. So thank you, everybody. And I like to say a beautiful Shanti mantra before we close over there, and then we finish. A special thank you to the team behind this for making these talks available. Thank you, Chinmay, to Bindu, the Bindu team. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much, everyone, and wishing you a very, very beautiful Dasami tomorrow and a Deepavali to come. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar.
Thank you.